don't know what's happening.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Saturday morning D&D show. My name is Jordan with a silent PH in the middle, and apparently I'm green, is what Lucien says on his chat.
Are you not on your screen?
I am not green on my screen. I look the appropriate pale shaggy beard guy that I am. So, what did you do?
3 seconds before I hit the button, your Zoom window is a green window where mine's normal.
So I'm just like a green block, or am I
It's
tinted
like there's
green?
a green tint over you. Like we put a green thing in front.
That's just the luck of the Irish. I've got that going.
Oh my God.
Yeah, really exciting. So while Lucien figures out his problems, hi everybody. Welcome to the Saturday morning D&D show. Thank you for joining us this week. We were not here last week because of things, but it was nice to have a week off. I'm not gonna lie. I've been putting out a lot of videos lately, so it was nice to just like I'm gonna eat some breakfast. But we are going to talk about a lot of Dungeons and Dragons stuff happening in the world. And first of all, we're gonna say that WizKids has partnered with Wizards of the Coast. Nothing new there, but they have a whole bunch of new miniatures coming out, and every section they're coming out with new miniatures. And they sent me this really cool Orcus. The Demon Lord of Undeath. And I haven't opened it yet because I want to open it on stream, but it's really cool. And they sent me a bunch of other stuff that are not painted. So, I need to have a painting party, at some point. Nathan, I'm looking right in your direction, and we need to just paint a bunch of minis.
Can you stop your video and then restart it real quick?
Oh, are you sure about that?
Yep.
Okay.
Thinking. On off. There's Jordan. Back on.
Do I have what is there something on my face? What? Do we need to stop the whole
It fixed itself.
Oh, there you
just
go.
Fixed itself.
Okay. Technology, folks. Technology.
When you see my playback, you're gonna laugh.
Yeah. So lots of fun minis coming out, and I want to thank WizKids and V the Crafting Muse for sending me some of those. And I've got like a 10 towns thing that I need to build. They sent some papercraft stuff. But I was going to ask you.
Cool.
Yeah, papercraft is cool. But it's funny because I have these 10 town papercraft buildings you can build, and I was going to ask you, Lucien. Now you play online a lot, so we don't play at the table. But a lot of this stuff, I feel like you would get and use it once. Like, how reusable is a 10 towns like papercraft? I build the whole thing, and if I'm running Rime of the Frost Maiden, that's awesome, because I can like put it down and like really immerse my players in it. But you're doing that for maybe like one combat, and then after that, I was like, well, I don't know. And I was thinking about that. We need to have more reusable stuff. We need like the Legos of D&D miniature crafting.
So it's so specific. Like if you were going to do a Fandelver run, you couldn't use those paper crafts as the buildings because.
Well, I could, but they're covered in snow and it's all those little things.
Yeah.
And so it just got me thinking about that.
Not everybody would know that they're covered in snow, but that makes more sense to me now when you say they're covered in snow, they're in a specific environment, they're a specific type. They're not as interchangeable.
So, I don't know. But I haven't put them together yet. Maybe they are very interchangeable. It's fun to have 3D props, I will say that. And another thing that WizKids is doing is those tiles. And I know Dwarven Forge, I think they do the tiles as well. And those are very modular. And you kind of are like, let's just build a dungeon, and you put it together. So I do like those. Yeah. But I don't know. It's interesting, the stuff coming out. And another thing, I think we talked about it maybe, but if we haven't, there's a $350 WizKids Tales of the Yawning Portal Tavern that they're going to come out with.
We did.
And it looks really cool. But I was like, I'm going to use that like twice maybe. What kind of encounter am I going to run in this thing that... Not for $350. So I don't know. It's interesting. Yeah. They're a really fun company.
If you spend $350 though, you end up making that a prominent prop every few sessions, just so you can bring
It's
that
true.
up. Or maybe you're the
Hey,
type of
everybody,
person
we're
that can set
going
it
back
up.
to the tavern for
Yeah.
reasons. Is it because you
Yeah.
bought that, Jordan? Is that why? Yeah, that's why we're going back.
That's why we're going back. Well, if you have that cool Dwarven Forge set up,
Yeah.
and you built this cool mega dungeon, how many times are you gonna tear that down and redo it?
Oh,
Versus
well,
having one big mega dungeon that you've got set up and you spent hours on building.
I would say a lot just because I don't have the table space. So, like, once they clear an area, I would, like, okay, next session, I would dismantle it and rebuild it for the next one. So,
And I wonder if there's a lot of people out there too that leave it just out, whereas me and you probably we game, we clear the table off, and we use the table for other things, or we're done. We don't necessarily just leave it all set up, and then everybody comes back the next week, and then it's always there type thing. Kind of like some people have their big mega game rooms, like a Joe or a. I'm thinking of like Ted would do that.
oh, yeah, probably.
Have big giant things set up and it never moves. It stays there so that they can always interact with it, kind of stuff. So
Exactly.
it'd be cool to have, but I think you're right. I just don't know how much use you get out of it. And papercraft is definitely cheaper than full on.
Yeah.
3D
And it
printed.
looks good. It's printed really nice. So, we'll see.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Kids.
What else what else is going on I just feel like stuff is happening, but I don't know. I was making a list of RPGs. So some of our friends were talking and we were like, what should we play next? And we'll get into this, but Rod of Seven Parts is done. And we finished the campaign, a lot of fun.
They survived.
One of them died, and then they used we'll talk about it, but we were like, what should we play next? And I started thinking of all the different systems I want to run, just different games or play styles or things like that. And so I was like, I need to make a list. So I ended up using Notion, because I'm obsessed with this Notion tool now that I'm using for campaign building. And I made a whole list of all the RPGs that I own and ones that I don't own, but like I labeled them out of these are ones I want to play in, and these are ones I want to run. And some of them I would be like, okay, I want to do like 5 sessions of this, or I want to do this as a one shot or something. And you start adding it up, and I've got like 2 years worth of RPGs to run.
All right, so you're planned out.
But are there anything that you want to run that you haven't? We're always drawn back to D&D because it's there.
Everything on my shelf.
Everything?
Yeah, everything on my shelf. I always find, I did last year, if you remember, I started out and miserably failed after a couple of months. I wanted to play one RPG per month.
Yeah.
Because I thought, a couple of weeks is too much to try to learn a new system, but maybe if we had a whole month, we could learn a new system, play a couple of games and get a feel for it, and then we could move on. It'd be kind of fun. It'd be a cool show. It's tough to jump from system to system to system these days when I kept picking things that were so varied and different. If you go from this to, you want to jump over to Pathfinder, and then you want to jump over to 3E, and then you want to jump to 4E, there's a lot that has to rattle around in your brain rule-wise if you're going to try to do that, because there's so many things you're remembering for 5E. I picked things like we did a couple of sci-fi ones. We did a couple of Powered by the Apocalypse ones. Yeah. So those are even so different from Dungeons and Dragons. You can't even use your skills.
Yeah, no, it would be like, hey, we're gonna play like Dungeon World, and then turn around and you're like, now we're gonna play Fate Core, and you're like, well, that's a completely different style of play, and but
I want to do it, but I found it hard to do it. So it's not that it's impossible, and I'd love to do it. And I keep buying more RPGs. I've already kickstarted 3 this year. At the end of the year here, that who knows when I'll get those ones. I've been getting some of the other ones I kickstarted, and I can't wait for those to come in. But it's been hard to find ways to play other games besides Dungeons and Dragons. And then the second problem, you can find a plethora of players to play Dungeons and Dragons. You have to twist arms to get players to play anything else.
Yeah,
which is just so weird to me.
Unless it's more than a one shot, I think. I guess I have good luck with like one shots, but anything more than that, they're like, well, we could just be playing D&D. Which is funny. We're complaining, and we are literally called the Saturday Morning D&D Show. That is not what I'm trying to say. I do love, but I love RPGs in general. And I mean, just looking at my list, I've got Invisible Sun on there. Actually, let's just look at it. And you know what I can do? by the power of YouTube, I think I can go to here. Oh, that's not what I want to do. Yeah. So this is my list. This is my RPG wish list. And I've got Alice's Missing, Alien, Bastion Land, which is Into the Odd, Call of Cthulhu, Lancer, I really want to play. I want to run like a 2 to 3 month Invisible Sun, because I feel like I need to run that long enough so we understand what's happening, you know? Tiny Dungeon, Tales from the Loop, Star Trek Adventures, Numenera, lots of cool stuff. So, oh, you know what? I did this, and then I didn't hit transition, so you guys couldn't see any of it. But anyway, yeah. So this is what I got. Alice is Missing. This is my list, and it's probably going to just get more and more. It's just going to keep growing. But
yeah,
lots of fun stuff.
Yeah, for me, it's like Modifius puts out stuff I want to run. Monty Cook puts out stuff I want to run. I still love Dungeons & Dragons 5e and the stuff that we get with that. I mean, Tasha's been a great book.
Yeah.
I'm still super intrigued these days about 2nd edition Pathfinder. It's got a little pull to me at the moment. I keep going back and maybe thinking about going through it and reading it and figuring it out and seeing the books that they have, because I've been very interested. I didn't like their Starfinder as much. It didn't grab me in that first session.
Yeah. Because
I've
you
seen
played
some other
right.
sci-fi ones, but Pathfinder still has this little bit of pull. I'd like to maybe check it out and see how it goes.
Yeah, we were talking like I almost want to play something different though. And so if it is like, if it's between D&D and Pathfinder, they're both fantasy RPGs, and Pathfinder was literally based off of older D&D. And so and it's weird saying that because I love Dungeon Crawl Classics, and you could say the same thing about that. But
drink.
Yep, there you go. But I haven't played Pathfinder to really understand if it's mechanically that different from D&D. But with so many on my plate, I want to play something that's completely different, like Invisible Sun. You know, Numenera. Like something that's just like, this is a completely different thing. So,
somebody in chat was saying, Johnny was saying, how about the Alien RPG? I'm like, yes, I bought the special order of that to get it, and I have it up there. And you mentioned Tales from the Loop over my other corner. That is a fantastic game.
And that's another one that's funny because
playing it.
Kids on Bikes and Tales from the Loop have come out kind of around the same time, and I've played Kids on Bikes a lot. And that's another one where I'm like, well, I already played like a 80s teenage-y weird, RPG. Like, why would I want to play Tales from the Loop? But I want to because it's different. There's a different game, different system, different goals, different abilities.
Yeah.
It's really cool. So.
And RPGs are just fun. I mean, reading the books and learning about the characters and thinking about the campaigns that you could run in those games is just fun. I mean, it's just, I can sit there all day long, and if I was bored, I could pick up one of these books and be like, here's the fall of Delta, and all of a sudden I'm thinking about a Vietnam campaign back in the 60s, and it's spies and intrigue and Cthulhu monsters and whatever. Or I pick up Spectaculars and I'm thinking about, oh, cool, new kids find out they have superpowers. They've read comics all their lives, so they figure out they're going to build a superhero team, but then they realize how hard it is to be a real superhero and play through a campaign like that or something. And then you go to a Monty Cook book and you're like, oh, what about dinosaurs and lasers? How about we do that? It's just like, you just throw all this stuff at you. And it's so fun to be that creative. And then the good old hard, let's go dungeon delve. Let's, take on that mind flayer that's trying to take over Waterdeep and stop them, and it's like
old mind flayers always causing problems. So, I mean, kind of thinking about mind flayers and D&D in general, 2021 is going to hit. We're going to get new books with Wizards of the Coast.
Last year we got it in January, right? We got a book at the end of January, I thought. Or was it?
I don't know.
It was either announced or at least we knew we were getting. Yeah, because we got the Magic the Gathering book. We got was the first book released in 2020 was the Magic the Gathering Theros, right?
I don't remember. So
I think it is.
Okay.
I think I'm right.
I could be wrong. I can look it up really quick.
Or February.
But what do you think we're going to get next year? Do you think COVID has changed a lot of their... I mean, they're still editing and writing and things like that, and so they can all work from home for that for the most part. But
yeah, but I think their schedule's been set. We've always heard them say their schedule's set 2-3 years out. So nothing that's happened, I think, would change that, barring I don't know, like the lawsuits and stuff. But I mean, I don't think any of that would affect their schedule of release at the moment for that stuff. So I wonder if the first book, well, what do you think? Do you think we're going to campaign? Because we just had a classes and rules and DM book. So normally they don't give us another classes and rules and DM book as the next book after that one's come out. They always usually give us a campaign setting or another Sword Coast book, right? So my guess is, or what is our prediction? I thought we would do a prediction.
Yeah.
What do we think it is? Do we think it's what are you leaning towards? More of another Sword Coast book, or are you leaning towards a campaign book that represents some other tie into a new property or new world or something? What's weighing more?
Yeah, I think I wonder if they're getting to the point where they've told enough stories with the Forgotten Realms. So I would be surprised if they make. I shouldn't say surprised, because like they're gonna do what's safe, I guess. But it would make sense to me if they did a different type of story and tie that in with a different campaign setting. So if that's like a Magic the Gathering setting where they're like, here's Magic the Gathering, like here's another setting book and here's an adventure that kind of goes along with it, and kind of marry the two and try to sell both of those books at the same time or something. I'm not sure. But wait,
was it Matt's book that came out?
But yeah, now you don't know. But it would make sense to me if they doubled down on the adventures they currently have and be like, do you want to do like this type of adventure? Then buy, Tyranny of Dragons. Do you want to do this type of adventure? Then buy Rime of the Frost Maiden, because they have so many right now that a lot of people have not played, because it takes you a good like year, sometimes two, to get through some of these campaigns.
Yeah, their campaign books are like 1 to 12, 1 to something. They're big.
Or I think it would behoove them to do here's a campaign 10 to 20 or something. That is a campaign, not just a dungeon delve like the Wizard of the Mad Mage, Dungeon of the Mad Mage. Yeah.
So your percentage is definitely on another campaign book, maybe some other tie-in property that they're going to tie into D&D. Still a chance that they could do a Sword Coast, but that feels lower to you. And I think I'm the other way. No, I'm with you. Now that I think about it. I think because I don't know if there's too many more Sword Coast areas we could go to that are greatly different from what we've already have. Even though me and you know that if you dive into the lore, you could say, there's all these places that are way different. But for somebody coming new to Dungeons and Dragons, they might not know a huge difference between Waterdeep and Daggerford or Waterdeep and Baldur's Gate. That might not be as big of a difference, even though we know there's a difference there. And if you're going to do a big city, I was thinking the only thing I could think of that was still out there that was an interesting city they haven't kind of covered that's prominent in the Sword Coast was Silvery Moon.
Yeah.
And I thought you could do some interesting stories in Silvery Moon because it's a very cosmopolitan, almost like a college town. There's universities there. There's schools of magic are there. It's built off of what you would almost think of an elven kind of city. So it's grown buildings in some places that, where the way it works, and some of the other stuff is more, manufactured like you would normally think. But there's a lot of stuff different there. You wouldn't confuse you're in Silvery Moon and I'm in Waterdeep. There's just, you wouldn't confuse that. So that was an interesting one. I was trying to think of any other town out there that is prominent in the lore that they might do. So that's about it, unless you're just talking about a land mass, unless you're talking about the Dales. Right, I guess you could get out to the Dales maybe.
Thay.
Start doing
I think Thay and you could do a whole intrigue thing around Thay, and that could be fun.
That's another good one.
And then they could introduce a bunch of new red wizard feats and stuff that you could take. RPG DMCA said Netheril back in time, because that is also interesting. We still are kind of,
and it's been coming up a lot.
Yeah, it has.
Name Netherils has been in a lot of stuff.
We've been talking about the Sea of Fallen Stars a lot, and just like a really cool water adventure there. So
here's another one, Myth Draenor.
Yeah.
That's one that always pops up a lot in books and in other adventure sets and stuff. And I could see them maybe doing the 5th edition version of a Myth Draenor or something, whether it's the Lost City, a back in time look at it, a what's going on in the future look at it, all that kind of stuff. So that's kind of where I was going. If not, I'm positive that's probably going to be a Magic the Gathering book, because we know they're going to do a Magic the Gathering D&D card set next year.
Yeah.
So they're doing an actual card set based on Dungeons and Dragons stuff that is going to make its way into the card game.
Mm-hmm.
And the next one they said, I looked it up, the next card set release is Kaldheim for Magic the Gathering. And I think that set comes out in January. So if they were going to do a tie-in when a card set comes out, like I think they did at the beginning of 2020, it was either January, February, or March in there somewhere is when Theros, I thought, came out. Or they announced the tie-in to the Theros release. I would think that maybe that one, Magic the Gathering, the Kaldheim. And I'm okay with that because the artwork and those books have been surprisingly good. I've heard a lot of great stuff. People loving Theros. They didn't know if they want Theros, but then all of a sudden they got to read through it and they got to look at some of the stuff that was in it and they liked it. I always liked Ravnica. And I've heard a lot of people when it had come out and even talked about it later on had liked Ravnica. So those are two good solid entries into, we want to bring a Magic the Gathering world into the Dungeons and Dragons stuff. That was pretty positive. It wasn't a huge negative, release to those books. So I think that's where I'm going with those as far as predictions. How about you, chat? You should put it into chat or in the comments. What do you predict is Wizards of the Coast's next book? Is it it's a campaign book? Is it maybe you think it's a source and rule book? Maybe we're getting more rules and maybe you think more subclasses are coming or more spells are coming or whatever your ideas might be.
Nah,
tell us.
We'd see so many playtesting stuff right now if that was the case. But I don't know where you got January, because Eberron Rising from the Last War came out in November, and then we didn't get
2019
in 2019, and then we didn't get another book till March, and that was Explorer's Guide to Wildemount.
So it was Matt's book. Wildemount came out in March, but I think they made. I guess I'm thinking of.
And then Theros was July.
Yeah, my dates are way off.
We're living at home. You don't know what day it is. It's crazy.
Come on. We had a pandemic. You got to give me a
True.
I forgot Matt's book was the first one they released for 2020 was Xandria book. Yeah, Wildemount book.
So, what Magic the Gathering? I don't know the Magic the Gathering universe. I need to talk to Indoor Adventurer because he knows it really well. But like, what will be the next? Like, what's popular? Like, isn't Zendikar the new?
That's the one that's out.
That's the one that's out now. Would that make more sense to do a Zendikar campaign book?
I think they try to tie it in because Theros tied in with the release of the Theros card deck.
Okay, so it's probably
when that and they might have come out like just a tiny bit earlier, but it was very close in timeline, I thought. So they were kind of matching up the two things to tie together. So those are the ones now they do keep a pretty good list of what the projects are for Magic the Gathering. You can find that out on, I think it was Wikipedia is where I found it, where new card decks that have been announced. Some of them have code names, some of them don't. Some of them talk about what the symbol is that's going to be on the card, but they don't necessarily tell about the theme yet. Some are reprints of things they've already done. So like they've done Zendikar before. That's another one they've come back to. Ravnica they did before they came back. But then there's other new ones they've created that they've never done before. So they're always either creating new worlds because it's their whole world is planes jumping, right? Planeswalkers. Mm-hmm. And so you can always bring in another plane at some point when you want to, or you can always revisit a different plane if you want to go back to it. So they've got a cool world. I would love to see their world lore built out a little bit more too. There is definitely a TTRPG game just built for them. And I don't mean take 5e rules and put it on top of. They have enough lore and enough world building, enough history, enough cool concept around that they could make their own cohesive role-playing game and be a real contender in the space. I think if they put, several developers on it and just built their own game, come up with a dice system that they like.
I feel like they did though. Like they have that lore and history, but the role playing's not there. But like the combat's there, and it's with a deck of cards. So I don't know. 5-colored magic. Are you kidding me? There's hardly any systems out there that have
that type of interaction, the idea that you're combining different colors to do different things, and those lean into your character in that way. I mean, there's a real interesting thing they could dive into that would still be different from almost anything else that's out there at the moment, even though it'd still be a kind of a fantasy, high fantasy, magical RPG game. But it'd be interesting. I'd play it. I'd play the heck out of it. It had some kind of cool, because I love the idea of the 5-color magic. That was the one thing in Dungeons and Dragons. Vancian magic's okay, but I have never bought in or has been as hyped and as thought it's as cool as many other people have. Now, I know lots of people have read the books where it came from, and I know they're fantastic on the way they explain them in those books and way where they got Vancian magic from. But it's never grabbed me as the coolest magic system out there. And I realize point magic systems aren't all that fun either. That's more mathematical or whatever. But 5-color magic system, and you're combining the elements to do different things, that always is counting.
Yeah, there's a card game called Epic Spell Wars. And they have a bunch of expansions, but it's like Duel at Mount Skullsfire or something. And I was playing that with friends. This was years ago. But you build spells. So you have a beginning, middle, and an end. And you can make a spell that's just a beginning and an end if you want like a really fast one. Or you can do a beginning and a middle and an end, and they all have points and stuff. But it's this idea that you're a wizard and you're channeling magic and creating some kind of cool spell. It's a really fun game. You should all check it out. Really, really fun game. Epic Spell Wars. Duel at Mount Skullsfire. But we were playing it, and my friend was like, man, why doesn't D&D have something like this? Like, he wanted to be able to take like the raw magic in the D&D world and like, I want to create a custom spell that does this. And there were earlier spells. I think I did a video on this where there was a spell where you could combine 2 different spells into a new one. So you could, take like create water and fireball, and now you have like a giant create steam or something. Who knows? But it's kind of interesting like that.
Yeah.
I would love a system that plays off of that more. You're right, where you can kind of combine stuff. A video game that does it really well is Magicka, where you have all these different elements, and then I'm going to combine healing and ray.
Hit your beams together, and then it does.
That's a fun game.
I love that game, and it's all based off like a certain combination that you're putting in. You're almost putting like a little code in, and then it does something, and then you blow each other up because everything's friendly fire, and I just love that game.
But unfortunately,
that's the kind of magic I'd want.
Unfortunately, you need to have resources, and advancing magic and learning those spells for the day allow you to have spell slots, which allow you to burn resources, because ultimately that's a lot of what D&D is. I picked up Kids with Brooms, or Kids on Brooms, which is a Kids on Bikes version, kind of Harry Potter-ish, and it's really fun, but there's no limit to what you can do magical wise. And
when I played in my game, you could just
and you get bonuses for not a separate school, but like particular parts of magic and stuff. Like I'm better at herbology or whatever you want to say, but you could just keep casting, and there might be some, I don't know, you need to have something like a risk reward, like, ooh, I could cast this and it could be really cool, but it also could hurt me or something. And I don't know. I'm thinking back, sorry, bring up Dungeon Crawl Classics again, but like, it doesn't have necessarily spell slots, but like, here are the spells you can cast them in indefinite amount of time, but if you roll too low, the spell fizzles and you forget it for the day. So like, if you're lucky, you can keep burning hands like all day, until the dice are just not in your favor. So,
and then your hands blow off.
And then your hands blow up. Yeah.
You take a maim. So it is interesting. So I could see some people leaning into that. There, lots of people are still exploring different styles of games. I mean, look at all the Kickstarters that are still popping up with people building role-playing games based on D6s, D20s, all the dice, some of the dice, none of the dice. They want to do a card-based system. They want to do dice-based system. There's all kinds of, they want to do a story-based system. So there's still a lot of exploration into different ways to run the game. So we have no shortage of games to go out and find, which is cool. But I just had wondered, kind of making our bets, what was going to be the first book we saw from Wizards of the Coast. This year's a little different because we didn't see anything leaked or announced towards this end of the year here that they've said, hey, this is keep us in your minds. There's something coming, and then give us a little shadowed out picture for us to puzzle over. Not sure why they haven't done that this year to try to keep us interested until they're ready to announce.
I bet they will in January, February. I think right now they're just riding the Christmas product wave. Yeah. Like Tasha's is out if you want to get holiday gifts, you know. And I've seen a lot of like, here's a holiday gift guide for your D&D fan kind of a thing. And so I bet that's what they're just kind of going with that. But.
Well, there's lots of miniatures and dice sets.
Yeah.
And T-shirts, and I mean they're doing all the other stuff that you can buy for sure. So there's plenty of D&D stuff out there for you to get. Oh, right. I had one more thing I thought would be kind of cool for you DMs out there. And I heard you're a DM at some point, or you were, you know, every now and then. I was thinking about dark vision, night vision. I was thinking about dim light versus torchlight in your games, 5e specifically.
Okay.
And I know we've all explained this to our players, whether they were new and didn't understand it, or they come from a different edition. Oh, you went green again for some reason.
What's going on?
Jordan's in night vision. But what's the best analogy you have come across to help explain to somebody the difference between somebody who has dark vision and somebody who doesn't when they're walking through, let's say, an underground cave or something? You know, has there been an analogy or a picture you've shown them, or what's gotten it across the best for you to make them understand what the difference is?
Well, so earlier editions, it was like infravision, wasn't it? Like it was like heat vision.
Well, you could have both. Yeah, it was more like a predator vision.
I thought it was,
There was infra, and there was ultra vision, which was kind of like almost like an X-ray vision kind of thing.
So I've always said that it's black and white. And so if it's dim light, you can see out to a certain radius. If it's dark, you can't see at all. If you have dark vision, in dim light, you can see as if it were regular light. And then in dark vision, you can see out to a certain radius, but that is black and white.
Right.
So that's
but that
the rules.
Still relies the person to understand what you're saying. Now, how?
Well, that's the game of D&D.
That to your wife? But how do you explain that to your wife and she gets it?
Like that.
Somebody
I don't understand the question.
Play as much. I think sometimes you have to use an analogy in their real world to help explain to them what you're trying to tell them rule-wise. We get it rule-wise, and I understand what you're saying rule-wise, but what does that really mean?
It means, well, I guess I don't understand, because it's like black and white.
Is dim light like a full moon out at night and you can still see things? Is dim light like maybe there's only a night light in your room and you're seeing just barely anything? What is dim light?
It's up to DM interpretation. So yeah, I would say I've got a candle, or I've got a torch, or I've got this. Like there's no active sun, there's no lantern in the tavern, there's no this. Like it's night, you're in a tavern, there's a bunch of like lanterns, there's a fireplace, that's regular light. But when you take a candle into the basement, that would be dim light. That's what I would say.
Okay.
I don't know.
Yeah, I gotcha.
I didn't know where you're going with this. I apologize. I'm a little confused.
I just think that it's still subjective, though. It's still like...
Oh, of course.
There might be people who've never carried a candle into a basement, Jordan. There's people that don't even have basements. So that analogy wouldn't have worked.
There's also people who have never wielded a greatsword before, but like we pretend.
And so you're trying to explain it to them. Yeah. So you could say it's like swinging a baseball bat, or you could say it's like, having a boat oar in your hand or something. You could try to equate it to something that they might recognize. Or we're in a technological age. Have you ever used like a visual aid to say, here it is, here's a picture of what night vision looks like versus regular vision? And if you have night vision, you get to see this same thing. Because that's what I was looking for online, was a way to say, here's a definitive, not subjective to the words we're using, but here's what it looks like in night vision, here's what it looks like without it, and you can see the two differences yourself. So I would
I would Google infrared goggles and just be like, this is kind of what you see, where it's grainy and it's hard to make out, but like you understand that shape is a person, and you understand that shape is your friend as you get closer, and you also understand there's a big spider behind him.
Right. Yeah. And it comes into a lot of confusion, I think, in games, because a lot of us have different ideas of exactly what dark vision allows us to see or not see. Like if we're searching a room and we're only using dark vision, most people are going to assume that's normal. I've only had one DM make us roll a disadvantage while searching with dark vision. very few people kind of enforce that rule. They just let their dwarves and their elves and whoever has dark vision do things normally in not absolute dark, but mostly the absence of dark, and then they're still moving around. So that's why I was thinking about it in the game, because each of us could subjectively have our own opinion about what is too dark or what is too light, or where it is. I was wondering if there was like a visual analogy or a visual guide to say, here you go, this is exactly what we mean. And then everybody's on the same level playing field when they look at it. They go, oh, because I've seen some like trap cameras, animal trap cameras that show black and white. They show out to about 10 feet. Yeah. And you can see, but there could be some really highly detailed ones, and there could be some really grainy and dark and blurry ones. So which one are you meaning? You mean
if it's foggy, it's going to be blurry. So I put a photo in our Discord, and I also put it in the YouTube chat. But that's how I envision dark vision. Like, it's just a thermal, or not thermal, but an infrared light for some lions. But
that's the picture I saw.
You can only see out to a certain point, because it gets to that point and it's all dark past that, but you can see pretty clearly where you're at. So, yeah.
That's the picture I'm going to start using. In fact, that was the one I Googled this morning when I started looking at it, because I think that gives a good representation of what I want to represent in the game. But I don't know if everybody had thought that the same thing. Like, I don't know if in everybody's mind they had the same idea of what that was. So that's why I just thought it was an interesting thing that, I don't know, as a DM, we might have took it for granted that everybody thinks the same way, and then realized, well, no, many people might have thought it was like predator vision or heat vision, like you could see heat signatures and things moving around, or maybe there was colors added in, or, whatever it might be. So.
Boy, I'm trying to remember. There was a game called, it was a Half-Life mod, and I think it was Vampire Slayer. And it was really fun. We played it in college, where one person's the vampire, and then you have like 3 slayers. And the slayers are trying to kill the vampire, but the vampire's like picking you off one by one. And it was really fun. And that had the vampire could go into like vampire vision mode, and everything would get like a red tint to it, but he could see in complete darkness. Also, I want to say that the Alien versus Predator first-person shooter game, the alien could go into a like vision that was black and white. So alien vision.
And the predator predator could do night vision, heat vision, and normal vision. It had 3 modes of vision it could swap through, which was really cool.
Yeah. That was a fun game. That was a really fun game. I love Alien a lot.
And that's what I was hoping, is that maybe people in chat would go, well, listen to them, not figure it out, and they would just send us like this cool picture, like almost like a meme where it would say, this is what D&D players say is dark vision, but this is what it really is. Like one of those type of, this is what they think it is, but this is what it really is. So I'm sure people will be able to send that to us. So other than that, that leads us into our very next segment.
I'm not ready.
Are you ready?
Okay.
No, you need to be ready.
Okay, I'm ready.
Ready? How about a little bit of bardic inspiration? Yay! Thank you, Taylor, for bardic inspiration tune. I saw you had one in there, so I got posted in there a little bit.
Yeah. No. I've been working on. Yeah, I'll just dive in. So I've been doing. If you follow the YouTube channel, I've been doing a 30-day build a build a fantasy RPG world. So I wanted to build a world where I've studied Forgotten Realms for so long that I wanted to build a campaign world. I've never done that. Like, have you ever built a campaign world? Like, do you have a custom world that you can play in? I mean, go ahead. Yeah, have you?
I put Seeking Revenor across the ocean from the Forgotten Realms, so it's on the world.
Yeah.
But I'm building an entire continent that's not real in there.
Yeah.
And it's all
and so that is world building. Yeah. And so you were building a world. So specifically, this last video that will come out in 20 minutes, it'll go live at 11 or 10 a.m. Pacific. I was talking about monsters, and I liked the idea that of symbiotes. So, like, they're dissecting demons and fiends and stuff and then grafting like demon arms onto your hand. And Eberron has this. Eberron has a lot of these weird like symbiote things that you attune to, and now you have like a weird, demon gauntlet hand that does stuff. And it's kind of like the Hand of Vecna and things like that. And so that's my bardic inspiration basically, is I was thinking a lot about this, and I liked the idea of you could get a really cool ability, maybe a spell or something interesting. Like you can cast Jump at Will, the spell Jump at Will, because you have these like augmented legs from, various demon parts or something like that. But the downside of that is that they influence you. And so I started thinking about monstrosities, and I was going through the monster manual on D&D Beyond, and if you start looking at monstrosities, a lot of them are meant to be, scary, and we think things are scary that are in that uncanny valley where it looks slightly human, but it's not human. So that got me thinking, like, what if all monstrosities in my custom campaign world are actually like the failed experiments of these, like, okay, we put some monster stuff in you or something, or we spliced you with this, and over the course of a month you mutated into this thing that we can't control, so we kind of just dumped you in the sewer or something, or you did this, I don't know. And so now that's where all these monstrosities are. And you have like Drider is a perfect example of that. Like, we're going to create this spider drow hybrid thing, and I'll put it away. So mechanically, I'm still trying to figure it out, but I like the idea of that. Yeah, that's where we get monstrosities. That's where a lot of these monsters come from.
Yeah, and I was thinking about that too, because like you could, aberrations, you might decide what aberrations are. You decide what monstrosities are. You decide whatever. And for some reason in my mind, monstrosities to me were big natural occurring creatures, and then aberrations were things that other entities created or mismatched or smashed together and turned something into. Like there was an influence of powerful beings, spells, or items that were creating an abomination. So an aberration. But then everybody else, I think, had it the other way. You have it. Like you're saying, your monstrosity could be like a Frankenstein monster. To me, would be an aberration. It wouldn't be a monstrosity. But I think the way you just explained it, yours is a monstrosity.
Yeah,
I get where you're going. Yeah. So
no,
that's interesting.
And I don't know. And they're so human-ish for the most part. Or I saw one that looked like a bear and a demon had been combined, and it was labeled as monstrosity in D&D Beyond. And so I was like, that's exactly what I'm thinking of. Like, they're experimenting with these creatures to try to control demons in a way. Like, can we control or I want the power of this demon, but I want the control of this soldier. I'm going to mash the two together. So it's kind of the idea. And then I like that. Like, I don't know. And I was also thinking of beholders, because beholders in previous editions, this wasn't the case, but in 5e, they reproduce through dreams. So beholders are very paranoid, and they start dreaming about other beholders coming to get them. And then because of that, a new beholder comes into existence. Like, he wills it into existence from a dream. And then the beholders fight and they go off and they start something else. But that would be another really interesting thing. Like, what if all monstrosities are the dreams of one overpowered demigod or something like that? I don't know. Kind of cool.
Is that where you're going with your world there?
I'm not sure yet. I was thinking a lot about it because Eberron, I've been taking a lot of influence from Eberron, and Eberron has a world of dreams and things like that. That's great. And it would be interesting to say that the world of dreams is the 5e equivalent of the Feywild and the Shadowfell. Like, you have basically a place of bright dreams and a place of nightmares, and you don't physically go to those worlds, but you can, astral project go to those worlds under certain circumstances or certain spells. And then what if somebody has learned a way to, hey, we have this guy sleeping, in a coma or something, maybe I'm subjecting him to just the worst nightmares, and then I'll magically reach in and pull out monsters for my army from the world of shadow or the world of nightmares. And I like that idea too. So I just kind of write down everything I think of, and then I'm like, oh, this could be really cool.
Yeah, that sounds like a good bad guy for a campaign. Builds his army off of a magic spell or ability that lets them pull fears and nightmares out of somebody sleeping. So they could be anything, really. They could be crazy stuff.
Yeah. And then the MacGuffin is well, not the MacGuffin, but like the there's a choke point of, well, we don't necessarily have to fight this army of monsters. We need to cut it off at the source. Like we have to wake up the guy that's sleeping. And so then the whole campaign is not how do we assault this thing? Yeah. It's how do we infiltrate and wake up that guy, or steal him, or I don't know, or make him have pleasant dreams. So, yeah,
is what you're talking about. Stephen King, It.
Oh yeah, in a way, yeah,
about. Yeah,
be a lot of fun.
That's awesome.
But what was your bardic inspiration, sir?
Well, mine was Freaky Friday, and when I say that, I always like to put these out here and wonder what does Jordan think of when I put my notes in, because I don't put a lot of extra detail in. When I typed in Freaky Friday, where did your mind go for a bardic inspiration?
It went to the episode of Community where Abed and Troy reenact the Freaky Friday problem, and they trade bodies through the whole episode. And it's a great episode. A lot of big fan of Community.
You nailed it. I was thinking about, what about a campaign where after every long rest, the players randomly roll to decide which player they wake up as. So you're moving character sheets around the table after a long rest. And then you play that character until the next long rest. And then you play the character until the next long rest. And the other fun part is, if you have the character during the long rest where they level up, you get to decide what they do. And so it's almost like a community of characters.
Okay.
It's almost like this idea that you get to play different characters through the campaign. I think it would be fun for each of you to role play what you think the personality of that character is. So let's say we've established that we've got a surly halfling. It's got a bad attitude. So how does each person kind of play a surly halfling with a bad attitude? Or do they soften it in some points when different people play it? Or does everybody lean into what that character is? Mm-hmm. Do they play different aspects of that character, so they wake up and they're very schizophrenic, and one time they're a happy halfling, and one time they're a surly halfling, and then the next time they're a clueless halfling or whatever, like all these different things you could go by. So I thought it would be fun, and just for characters, and I think it would lend itself to a very comedic style game, a very Act Inc. style game, we're going to throw in a lot of fun, we're going to throw in a lot of humor, we're going to laugh a lot.
I think that would be a lot more fun and I agree with a lot of everything you're saying, but like if it was a cursed item or something.
Oh,
so
that'd be cool too.
Maybe they are, or like you have to transport this item from A to B, and it's going to take you, a week or something. And every night this item is swapping people back and forth. So they wake up and they're just like, oh man. And so, but I have the training of a wizard, but I'm now in the barbarian's body. What does that mean? Like, do you keep your mental stats and just trade physicals? Does he still have his spells?
How do you want to run that? Yeah. There's a lot of things you could decide and pick and choose on to make that interesting, to make that whole thing, that swap interesting. Maybe you, like you're saying, you keep mental aspects, but you get physical aspects, or maybe you get the whole character, or maybe you get just certain pieces of it. Or maybe you just get the bonuses. So now all of a sudden you can't remember as many spells because you've got the intelligence of the barbarian who wasn't, specced out to have all kinds of spells ready to go.
I mean, we don't have we have shape changing through wild shape and polymorph. And we have like the magic jar spell, which is one of my favorite spells. But aside from that, I don't know a lot of like body swapping things. I guess you could, maybe it's a physical jar that you have to carry, and it's a cursed magic item that starts pulling people's souls in and swapping it back and forth. So that could be fun. I wanted to
Freaky Friday.
Freaky Friday. I like it. I wanted to point out, Table 1SG, he became a member of our YouTube channel. I think you're the first member. So thank you very much for your support. It's really awesome.
Welcome back.
Yeah. And so Mr. Lucien, what's going on in this Mad Mage, this Dungeon of the? Tell me about your games.
Level 3. We had a great big argument about going down to level 4, or our wizard decided to talk us into, let's track down Xanathar and kill him. So we're on our way into Xanathar's hideout to see if we can kill Xanathar for whatever crazy reason our wizard wants to kill him. I have no idea how it's going to turn out. It's going to be crazy in the next couple of sessions. We have definitely picked off a huge fight if we find him and actually it happens. Or we're going to get chased down and go back down to 4th level where I thought we were going to go and start exploring and be ready to go to 4th level. Mm-hmm. We did level up. So after we got through all of the 3rd level, we did, without trying to do too many spoilers for anybody else that might be playing the game, we picked a faction, we helped that faction, and we nearly wiped out the other faction. And we mapped it all out for our Ack Inc. overlords. And so we were rewarded for that. And we're pretty much ready to go. I did level up, so I got a 2nd level in Twilight Cleric now.
Okay, so what's your full build? What is your character then?
It's a 6 Arcane Archer, 2 Twilight Domain Clerics.
Okay.
And I'm going to keep going.
You're a human or?
No, Aarakocra.
Aarakocra, that's right. Okay.
Yeah,
how do you fire? How do you Arcane Archer with bird hands? You have feathers.
Yeah. No, I have regular hands.
Oh, okay.
And then I have wings.
Oh.
You should see my mini. I should send you the mini.
Take a picture.
We had a friend, I don't know, a couple of people have been working with the Hero Forge thing, and they made up our whole party. They look fantastic.
Yeah, Hero Forge is
really good. I'll post it in Discord at some point and show you guys. I think of my guy as Moon Knight at this point. So he's got the symbol of the Ankh. He worships Khonshu, for the darkness. It's cool. Some of the spells you get is the Twilight Cleric, so I'm leaning into that now, which is fun. And from here on out, it'll be Cleric levels all the way up. So I was only going up to 6th level Arcane Archer to get some cool bow stuff, Sharpshooter, and then the rest of the way Cleric. So
are you playing with the new Tasha's Cleric Fighter extra abilities? So
no, I did not choose any of those. I'm only using Twilight Domain out of Tasha's.
Okay.
But I didn't use any of the adjusted fighter stuff, and I didn't use any of the adjusted Cleric stuff. Other than that, but other players in our games have been batting that around, deciding if they want to use that or not. Because we've got a Forge Cleric, we've got an Arcanist, Arcanist, I think is what it was.
Okay.
No. The guy
Artificer.
Artificer. I was thinking Arcanist. Artificer. We got an Artificer. We've got a Wizard. That's a Chronomage.
From Wild.
From Wildmount. He's using those rules.
Cool.
And then we have a Eberron, full-on robot dude, who's doing fighter and something else. I forget what he's. Oh, barbarian. He's a fighter barbarian.
Okay. Cool.
So that's a crazy thing. So it's a cool mix. Pretty fun. Great campaign so far. It's going to be long. We're only on level 4 if we get there. There's supposed to be like 26 levels of this dungeon.
There's a lot of levels.
Yeah, we got a lot of gaming ahead of us so far. We'll see. But
you start playing 2 or 3 times a week. So
yeah, Danimal, our dungeon master from Down Under, he's our Australian dungeon master, does a fantastic job of playing game or hosting games for us each and every week. So it's been super fun.
Yeah.
Other than that, I'm doing a little creativity on the, like you said, kind of world building front a little bit, but for a different purpose, a different reason than what you've been showing everybody. But that's been my side secret project that anytime I get some extra time, I've been throwing into that. And eventually, when I get at least where I feel like it's cool enough to show people, I'll put it out there so people can kind of see what I've been working on.
Cool.
But still in the early stages.
Yeah. Well, I heard there was a Cyberpunk game you were going to run for a certain co-host.
I have it all filled out. I went through my mind how I would run Jordan through it, and I just haven't done it yet.
Yeah.
Haven't called him and said, hey, when do you have an open night to try to learn this system you don't know how to play yet? But you have the PDF now, right?
I do, yeah. I have the PDF.
There you go.
I have some time off for Christmas, so I think we need to start scheduling some one-shots or something needs to happen. with friends and stuff. That would be a lot of fun. I bought, it's over there. I forget what it's called. I have the PDF. But I bought the 2020 holiday DCC game. And it's got a candy cane giant worm that's like devouring people on the cover. It looks really fun. The Doom That Came to Christmas Town. And I was reading through that last night, and it looks a lot of fun. And there was talk of running that on Indoor Adventures channel this Christmas. Because last year I ran a holiday thing.
He likes to do holiday stuff on his channel.
It'd be a lot of fun.
Yep.
Since I'm not running games right now. Yeah. For me...
You had a big game end, right?
I did, yeah. So Rod of Seven Parts, we finished it. The episode before the last episode, they were in the Citadel of Chaos. The whole goal is to find the last rod fragment, put it together, and then basically defeat Miska. And so Miska, the wolf spider, is this giant or gargantuan demon, and I had to custom build the character, and I stole a lot from Theros, actually. There was a really good spider monster in Theros that I took. But I don't really want to give it away, but they find the rod fragment, they have a battle. We had an hour-and-a-half battle against Miska, which was really fun. And they do so much damage, and LB's character landed a curse, so I had to roll a wisdom check every round to see if I could take an action, and that really hurt, where I was just using my reactions to do damage and legendary actions, and I'm just like, this is... Ooh. So I ended up giving him a little more hit points than he actually had, just so that the fight felt a little more epic. But when they landed the killing blow, Rikiri took a 12d10 acid to the face and ended up, and she was at 4 HP to begin with, and so she ended up. So they did awesome, and then they went through some stuff and ended up resurrecting her. But if you want to check that out, that's on Nerd Immersion Plays. You can listen to the final thing. And then I was a guest on a role-playing game on Twitch called Better Than Heroes. And it's funny because I play a lot of these online games with friends, or people will comment and be like, hey, come be a guest on our show. And I'm like, awesome. This was the most professional that I have experienced. And I was really blown away by it. They were like, here's your character guide document. Here's the Zoom things. We're going to meet here. We're going to do this. This is, and it was like, what? And I had all the information, because usually it's like, oh yeah, are we doing that tonight? Oh yeah, you were tonight, right? Here's the link. Come, yeah, we'll throw you in. We'll figure it out. And I'm like, all right. But they're doing a Spelljammer game, which is why they contacted me, because I finished all the Spelljammer stuff. So I was playing a Githyanki Warlock. That was really fun. And it was hilarious because they have an artist who is on the show, and he's got a digital pad. And so he was drawing my character and the monsters minutes before we went live and uploaded it. And then they dropped it into the Roll20 so that we could all watch and stuff. And they're very funny. A lot of them are professional comedians outside of Colorado. So very funny people. Better Than Heroes. Go check it out. If you are curious, once the episode's on YouTube, which I think it might be, I'm gonna share it and link it so you guys can watch. But that was a lot of fun. So that is the gaming that I did. As I finished Rod of Seven Parts, which is really sad. Last Wednesday we were like, oh, we're not playing. Oh, what do I do? I need to think of something else. But I'm also releasing a video every day for the month of December, so I have been busy. Which is Endegar, this custom campaign world that I'm building, and it's a lot of fun. And we're having... It's interesting just talking through, and I don't know if you do this, but just talking through something to the camera, because I'm by myself. But I noticed that while I'm talking, I'm like, actually, now that I say that out loud, that makes a lot more sense to do this. And then through the editing process, I will finish a video, and then I'll go back to my notes and write out a bunch of stuff. So we're coming up with some, I'm coming up with some fun stuff that I really enjoy, and I can't wait to finish December and then start running games in Endegar. That's what I really want to do next, because that's what's going to help flesh out that world. is, or flesh out that world, is to actually run games in it. And then people have to, you know, like, what NPCs are you running into? And I have to actually work and craft that, as opposed to thinking about, well, where do my players want to go? Now I could be like, oh, you want to see a blacksmith? You're right, there would be a blacksmith. I better create an NPC. So,
yeah, I've been having this trouble where I'm pretty busy throughout the day. I've got a lot of stuff planned I'm doing, or I'm playing some games and having fun with friends, or I'm working or whatever. And I have that creative project that I want to work on that's kind of building stuff. In the minute I go to lay down in bed and I think, well, maybe I'll just read a book for an hour, or I'll just, you know, I'm about a million ideas for that specific project starts hitting me hard. And I'm like, I keep trying to figure out, is there a way I can get it like a laptop in bed that I could type on all of a sudden, or
get
should
a
I
Chromebook,
get a voice transcriber, or should I get a pencil and paper and write it all down? Because all of a sudden the creative juices, the minute my head hits the pillow, is like, oh, you should do this, or think about this, or wouldn't it be cool if this was this? And it was just like, it just explodes all of a sudden, because I think my brain's not thinking about what am I doing the rest of the day, what's my schedule. I've got all that stuff handled. By the time I go to bed, all that stuff's done. I can stop worrying about it, and then my brain just opens up to, oh, what about this and that? And I'm like, should I get up? And then I won't get enough sleep. And I was like, But I love that I'm getting all of this really cool creativity happening that I can then try to feed on when I do get time to sit down and do it. So
that's awesome.
Very cool.
Well, I wish you the best of luck. Yeah, notebook and a pen. That's what they're saying here. You're too digital, man.
Doing. Actually, what I was doing is I have my Galaxy Note that has a pen in it, so I can write right on my phone, which is super cool. I love it. I tried my iPad. I have a Galaxy Pad, but the keyboard was awkward when you're trying to like lay down and you're trying to. It wasn't quite working, so I've got to figure something out. Transcribe me, just talk it out. But then my wife's next to me. She's not going to want to hear me do all that stuff.
Get a really loud typewriter and just click, click, click while she's trying to sleep. That would be the
one from The Shining. Rad Rom.
These are all good things. That's our show, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for visiting us. Thank you again, Table 1SG, for becoming a member of the YouTube stream. Really helps out the channel. We appreciate it.
Hopefully I'll have the green screen fixed next week.
And hopefully I won't be green and grinchy, I guess we'll say.
The Grinch who stole Christmas.
The Grinch who stole Christmas.
Everybody was saying it's night vision.
Oh, it could be,
keep thinking I'm doing it because I'm trying to show it night vision.
And we will be back next week for not the final, right? That's we got 2 more Saturdays. Yeah.
2 more
Saturdays.
So
this will be the episode before Christmas, and then we'll have maybe 2020 in review on the 26th, and we'll just talk about all the cool things that, because we were kind of talking before the show started about, like, you know, 2020 was awful, but at the same time, like, we did some cool stuff. Like, you know, we played some cool games, we got through some other stuff, so maybe we'll do like a review where we just kind of talk about stuff. Could be a lot of fun. I'll talk to all of you. Oh, and join our Discord. We moved the Discord to a new Discord, but I feel like it's working out better because there's more community members there. And lots of fun stuff's happening. So, yeah, it's good times. Anything else before we leave, sir?
That's it for you, Bardic Inspiration people. Tell us about your campaign ideas, and hey, how do you describe Dark Vision to your players, or give us a visual aid to help us figure it out.
Yeah, visual aid in the Discord chat. That would be great.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll talk to you guys next week. Take care, everybody, and happy holidays.